What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today to talk the National. That's right, it is going to be here before you know it. And in all honesty, if you are planning on attending, you probably should have done so by now. But I know, a lot of you boys and girls out there, procrastinators. You like to put it off to the last minute. So what I want to talk about today is why you should go to the National and why you shouldn't go to the National. We're going to give a little bit of reasons on both sides. We'll mix and match in between, but let's start with the why you shouldn't go first. And it's honestly quite obvious. It is expensive, and a lot of it's going to depend on where you're traveling from. You know, myself personally, I have the option of driving or flying. I actually usually just end up driving. It's just simpler. It's only a 6-hour drive. Yeah, I could be on the plane in an hour, whatever. But it's easier hauling stuff back and forth, having the car if you need it. You have full control. You don't have to worry about flight cancellations, all that stuff. So for me, I drive. Gas prices aren't that bad. It is what it is. But travel expenses could be expensive depending on where you have to come from. The show itself, not too bad. It's about $175 for a 5-day pass. You don't have to go for all 5 days unless you're a super user or you're just crazy. Sure, go for the full 5 days, but even just to go for a couple days, it's not that expensive. Where it gets pricey is hotel rooms and room and board, I guess, for lack of a better term. That can get a little bit expensive, especially if you haven't booked anything yet. And when we talk about the advantages of going to the National, that is one of the things that we'll talk about. And I mean, let's be honest, money's tight for a lot of people. I 100% get that. For the cost of going to the National, what an average person may spend, and I don't remember exactly what it ran me last year in Atlantic City. It was a little bit more expensive than Chicago because of the location. The hotel was much more expensive, but at least a couple $1,000. And I drove to Atlantic City, a little bit of a further drive. But I would say it was at least $2,000 to $3,000 for hotel rooms, food, gas, National tickets, dinners, extra complications there if you have to get a taxi or an Uber every day to take you over. Chicago, you don't have to do that if you stay close enough. But long story short, let's just say it costs you $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000 to attend the National. And once again, travel is going to vary on this greatly, but that's something you could just take that money and go buy a really nice card, collectible. Take a nice trip with the family, you know, depending on your situation. But that money could definitely be spent on a lot of other things. And I totally get that. That's a very valid reason to not attend the National. In my own personal opinion, that's the only real reason not to attend, is the time and money factor. You don't have time off work. It's not easy for you to get there. It's expensive. That money could be better put somewhere else. You know, don't be going into credit card debt and paying 50% interest rates on your Chase card to go to the National and spend even more money. Because that's the thing. Just attending the National is only part of the expenses. Getting there is only half the battle. You don't want to go to the biggest card show in the world and not have any money to spend in the actual card show. Now, you could take stuff to trade, sell, all that jazz, and kind of make some of it back there, I guess. Use your cards to buy other cards. But there are complexities with that we could talk about maybe in a separate video. So cost is the number one biggest reason not to go. Why you should go. Let's take the opposite tact of this coin and why you should go to the National. One, for me, it's a little bit different as an air quotes content creator / evil influencer. It's a part networking event for me, but I'm going to lump that into the social experience. I honestly enjoy, and I say this about a lot of the shows that I travel to, and I don't go to shows every single month, you know, like some of the guys do and girls. But I enjoy going to the shows a lot of times just to hang out with friends, people that I've met the, 3 to 4 years that I've been doing, or 3+, almost 3 years now that I've been doing content. And met a lot of people at shows. And I'm not even talking about industry people. I'm just talking about other fellow collectors, viewers of the channel, dealers that I've established relationships with over the years now, whether it's a lot of it, via digital communication, whether it's DMs or maybe hopping on a video call or whatever. But to have those rare opportunities to get together and meet and hang out, some of my best national memories have nothing to do with actual deals or transactional based. They're all centered around hanging out with people and conversations and that sort of stuff. Hanging out with Flippin' Steve and Dustin last year, getting lunch in the bottom of the hotel and just chit chatting, walking the boardwalk in the middle of the night with Steve at in Atlantic City when he says pizza's just the next stop down the way, and you walk 5 more miles and pizza's just the next stop down the way. If you're ever anywhere flipping with Steve, or if you're ever anywhere with Flipping Steve and he tells you whatever it is right around the corner, don't believe him. Hanging out with Filmington and his crew at his various parties. I had good conversations in hotel lobbies with people. Hung out with Sam from Women of the Hobby in the Chicago National and just chatted for a while with her and some of her friends. Just great times with just other content creators and just average collectors and just normal people and all of you that watch the channel. And then, yeah, for me, there's a little bit of an added benefit of air quote networking event. And maybe you all don't have as long of a list of friends, or maybe you have a longer list of people that you want to meet. But I'm sure there's been people that you met in the hobby on Instagram, in Discords, on Twitter that are attending the National that you've never had a chance to sit down and have a beer with, or share a slice of pizza with, or hang out for the night and BS. To me, there's a lot of value in that, especially coming off of, I remember the Chicago National, the first time it was there, not the first time it was there, but a couple years ago when it was there, the first one post-COVID. That was kind of like the really first big social gathering, I think, for a lot of us. And that was just a ton of fun, just being around friends again. And you're all there for the same thing, the passion of cardboard, basically. Expensive paper, as the comic book people like to call it. You can kind of steal that for this one too, or what Sports Card Radio always say, expensive pictures of men in shorts and tank tops on pieces of paper or cardboard. To me, there's a lot of value in that, and I get that it's an expense to go there and have that, but that's the main reason, honestly, why I go, is the social stuff. There is not, if I listed my top 10 national moments, there is not a card or a transaction that would rank in that top 10 for me personally. And I think, if a lot of people are being honest with themselves, that's why a lot of people go. Do a lot of people go because of money? Sure. Hey, I can go get deals done. I'm going to make a ton of profit, this, that, the other thing. That's not the reason that I go. I go more for the social aspect than anything else. And that kind of ties into one of the other really good, the experience. The experience of attending the National is a ton of fun, especially if you've never been the one. If you've never been the one, I would recommend at least trying to check out one, whatever location makes the most sense for you. When you walk into that room and you just see that spread of tables, there's just a certain way that it makes you feel. And there's no real way to describe it or put it into perspective unless you're in the room and you can kind of take it all in. Sure. Let's not skip over the cards and the collectibles and the memorabilia and whatever it is that you're chasing. There's a decent chance it's in that room. The saying always is, if there's a card and you can't find it at the National, it doesn't exist. I don't know if that's 100% true. There was cards that I was looking for last year. They were non-sport, so I get it. But you're just going to run into unique things that you may or may not even know existed in a case walking the show floor. Every table is a treasure hunt. You just don't know what you're going to see, what you're going to find. Now, dealer pricing, just like any other show, is going to vary greatly. Can you get good deals at the National? Absolutely. Can you find a bunch of overpriced stuff on tables? Absolutely. And that leads me into the next thing. And honestly, one of my favorite parts of the National experience when it comes to actual interacting with cards and not just hanging out with people, and this is almost kind of like a combo of the two, the trade nights. There is nothing better in sports cards than the organic nature of the pop-up trade nights. The ones that Ryan and the team and his people and Jimmy put on with the organized trade nights, absolutely fantastic. I would 100% lump those in here. But just a bunch of people sitting around a hotel lobby with card cases out, and it basically turns into a second show. The difference there is I've always had way more success when it comes to the actual transaction of cards, getting things done at the trade nights around the National. You're not working, there's not a buyer seller adversarial relationship at a trade night. It's two people that enjoy expensive pieces of paper and try to meet in the middle and come to a deal. And usually you could get much more fair things done where both sides feel pretty good walking away from it at a trade night. And same thing, you never know what you're going to run into. You're just walking the floor and all of a sudden there's just like all these amazing cards, literally in some cases laid out on the floor, depending on where you're at. And that's something extremely unique to the National, are those crazy pop-up trade nights. The other really cool thing is the corporate stuff. If you're into that, there is, you're only going to get those big, huge, flashy corporate booths. If you want to chase the free stuff, you can. A lot of the corporate dealers will have free stuff. Usually eBay will have some sort of free promo set chase. Last year was the Stranger Things cards from Zero Cool were a big chase. That was kind of fun. I didn't wait in line for it. That's the thing. You got to wait in line for a lot of that stuff, and I'm not one to wait in lines. But if that is your thing, there is a lot of opportunity for those sorts of things at the National. Another niche thing, if you're into this, I get some people are, some people aren't. In-person autos. The National has the best list for in-person autos if you want to buy tickets and go through that process to get autos or photographs with athletes, entertainers, whatever the case might be. You are not going to find a better list in a single weekend at any single location that I can think of. And I get that's not for everyone. It's not really a thing for me. I did one last year. A close friend of the family asked for a Reggie Jackson, in-person Reggie Jackson autograph ball. So I got that done while I was there last year. But generally speaking, it's not something I chase, but that is a big draw for a lot of different people. And then the last thing that I'll say is, in all honesty, and I get it, there's probably someone's already written this comment. You want me to go to Chicago for the National? Or are you crazy? Like, how many guns and armored vests and stuff am I bringing with me? It's in Rosemont. It's not in Chicago. And in my opinion, it's not in Chicago proper. In my opinion, of the ones that I've been to, and I don't have a long laundry list, I'm not some 30-year-old veteran of the National, but Chicago, #Rosemont, for a show location, in my opinion, is one of the best layouts that there is. If you're flying in, you are not even 5 minutes from the airport. You could probably make it a 5-minute walk to the airport. There are, now if you waited this long in the book, maybe not so much, but mileage may vary. There are a ton of really nice, large hotels within walking distance of the convention center. When I say walking distance of the convention center, I'm talking across the street. That gives you an advantage for a lot of reasons. You don't have to mess around with a car or Ubers or taxis. You literally just roll out of your hotel and walk across to the venue. It is also very handy at night because there are a lot of nighttime activities, trade nights, parties. You're going to want to hang out with friends, corporate stuff, all sorts of nonsense is going on. In Chicago, it is very easy to bounce from hotel to hotel. You just walk out, walk down the block, boom, you're in the next one. And I never had an issue with safety when I was there. Atlantic City last year was a nightmare for that stuff. I'll just be honest. You're spread out across the entire city. You're hopping taxis. It was a huge pain in the butt. I felt like I missed out on a lot of stuff last year at the National in the evenings because everything was so spread apart. I didn't feel like that with Chicago. So I feel like if you're going to go to one, Chicago location-wise is amazing. Now, next year's is in Cleveland. That couldn't be a better location for me personally because I could literally just drive to the show every single day. That being said, and maybe we'll do a video on this later in the summer, it's not going to be a great, everyone is centrally located National next year in Cleveland. It's just not set up like that. And maybe I'll do a whole standalone video about previewing the Cleveland National since I'm local. Tips, tricks, that sort of stuff. But from everyone being grouped together, Cleveland is not going to be great for that. So from a social experience, as I talked about, for me, the most important part about attending the National is that social experience, and Chicago excels at that. And let's not forget, Pizza. What else do you need? Chicago deep dish? Can't eat one every day, but when in Rome, they are pretty good. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Hope this was a little bit helpful, kind of walk you through the process. I personally, for me, it is 1000% worth it to go to the National. If to take my content creator cap off, would it be worth it for me to go? I think so. I wouldn't go probably for as many days. I'd probably go in and go out for a day or two. I don't know that I would go for the full 5 days like I am now, but I would at least want to experience once. That's part of the reason why I went to New York City Comic Con last year is I don't think I'll ever get to San Diego just because of the travel involved with that. But just to see New York City Comic Con, I wanted to go once and at least check it off again. Now, my wife and I may go again this year, but I at least wanted to say that I went once. I've been to the National, I've been to NYCC, and I've been to Gen Con over the last years of my life. Those are kind of the main. New York City Comic Con's not. That's the number 2 Comic Con convention, but Gen Con is the number 1 tabletop board game convention / card game convention in, I don't know if in the world, but the country for sure. And then the National is the biggest sports card collecting convention. So I'd at least try to get there once just to say that you did it, experience it, take it in. So hopefully this was helpful. If you are going to the National, let me know in the comments down below. If you're not going to the National, let me know in the comments down below. And if there's something I forgot, if you have what reasons to go or not go did I miss, throw them downstairs as well. We will catch you boys and girls on the next one. Hope to see you in Chicago later this summer. Peace.